together, score them together. The real dog was left off of your ballot. The person playing the dog was put on. All right, a little harder to do. Here's a partial cast from Henry V. How many times did you list Christopher Holbert, and how many scores does he receive? How many say 4? How many say 3? The correct answer in this case is 3, because English soldiers is a group, and you can skip him in that list. All right, so he gets 3. Yes, you know who Christopher Holbert is based on his other 3 characters, but you skip English soldiers entirely. However, if the editor of the playbill had done this to you and the director were mean enough to do this to you, guess what you have to do now? Score him 4 times. However, English soldier number 1 gets an NI as your score, because that character is not identifiable on stage. Unless someone in the middle of Henry V, and I'm pretty sure I know the play pretty well, unless someone says, hey, English soldier number 1, come over here, that character is not identifiable. Yes, I know who Christopher Holbert is because I've seen him play Lord Scroope Masham and John Bates and the Duke of Orleans. I've seen him. I know who he is. I can pick him out. It's like, oh, he did a nice job, standing around that fire, and I give him a score. But don't. The character is not identifiable. Okay? You have to list it because they did this to you, and this is why we had a 65-person ballot, because a production of Annie literally listed every orphan, and they had 60 of them on stage. Every orphan got a name. So our ballot had to have every orphan. And even though Susie played Susie and Janet played Janet, and they all had the same name coincidentally as their own name. We had to score all those little girls, even though only 5 girls in that show have a role where somebody says their name to them. And you can identify the girl that says, oh my goodness, and Annie and Sandy. All right. Scoring performances, how to deal with multiple actors performing one character. We've had circumstances where a stage manager has to go on for a sick actor, or someone's been hurt. We've had instances also where usually it's a younger role, a younger actor splits their role with another young actor for a long production at LTA, where they have like 19, 20 performances. So they split up the nights that the kids do their work. You score the production you saw. If you saw an understudy that night, score the understudy. All right? You don't have to come back and see the lead. Some groups will ask. They'll try to get you not to come to that night. They're always constantly asking us as the reps, please tell your judges not to come this night because our understudies are going to be on that night for the one show that we're going to give them because, not your problem. Go see the night you want to see, score who you saw, we'll deal with the tabulation. These people sink or swim together. If you see a stage manager on stage, give them the 5, thank them for their time. They probably don't want to be up there anyway. They're carrying the script around, reading it, give them a 5, thanks a lot. We understand that happens. If the ballots all rise together and they get a nomination, we'll give them 2 nominations. If we had 9 ballots, all got high scores, 1 ballot got a low score for the understudy that one judge saw, we'll make sure that this person gets the nomination, and it didn't hurt, their scores enough to bring them down. So we'll deal with that at nominations and tabulation, not your problem. All right. Some people don't like numbers. They prefer to think of words. So we added words to our ballot to kind of say a 10 is excellent, highest possible quality, and all the way down to 1 by half points. Everything gets a 1 no matter what, no matter how bad it is. We don't give zeros. We do give NIs for not identifiable characters. However, I need you to adjust this every time because I wish that our ballot had 10 highest possible quality, highest possible level of difficulty. Because there's no way to kind of add level of difficulty into this because everything you're looking at changes based on the size of the role and how much they had to do and how hard it was to do. So I need to kind of adjust. 10 for love letters is actually 7. Okay, so highest possible quality of love letters is a 7, and it goes down from there. Highest possible level of Hamlet starts at a 6 as average and goes up from there. Again, scoring performances, you base it on your criteria, based on this criterion, level of difficulty, based on your watch experience and what is average across community theater. Score performances is what is average to you and to watch. Don't be afraid to give 1s and 10s. In truth, I don't care if you give 1s. Most people just can't bring themselves to give volunteer actors and technicians 1s. I don't care about that. But if you regretted your free ticket and wanted your money back on a free ticket, get below 5. Give it a 4. Just make sure that we understand it had some problems. It was bad, and it needed a lower score. Don't be afraid to give 1s and 10s. If you think it's a 10, consider it. Make sure it was really, really hard to do and really, really good. I've given 5 10s in 14 years. 5. I'm a tough judge. But at the same time, I know every one of those because they affected me that much. It was a set dressing at Port Tobacco. It was a sound design at Hard Bargain. It was the lady who played Maria Callas at LTA in, can't think of the show, Masterclass. You know, every one of those is stuck with me. So 10s are rare, and you should keep them rare. And if you can't identify by somebody on stage, list them as not identifiable, but if they're listed the character with a character name, make sure they go on your ballot. Also on the ballot, you'll be asked to identify the sex of each actor, regardless of the character they portrayed. We want Dustin Hoffman winning the Best Actor award for Tootsie, not the Best Actress award. Okay? Or any of the roles that have gender changes in them. You'll also be asked to identify lead roles and cameo roles. For all lead roles, who was the story about? Who was primary to the piece? What character couldn't you have removed from the show without the show falling apart? Okay? And they should have been the lead across 2/3 to 3/4 of the entire evening. There are some shows that have no leads. The Shadow Box is a great example. It's a show with 3 families all working out of a hospice care kind of thing, and there are 3 individual stories. None of them is a lead across the entire production. It's a very big ensemble piece. 7 or more judges must agree it's a lead before we'll give it the lead designation, but we do some, if a ballot's missing or things don't come in at 6, we'll take a look at those, make sure the judges just didn't skip this part of the balloting. Cameos. We ask you to identify all cameo roles. It's fairly easy with musicals. It's small but significant characters who have a just limited stage time. It's the second lieutenant in Shenandoah. It's the courier in 1776. He's been running in every few scenes. He drops a message on the desk and runs back out. And he runs back in and he runs back out. And then one time he stops and he sings about his mother and how he died in the field. And all the women cry in the audience. And then he runs back out to go do the message and comes back in. Okay? Easy to identify musicals. In plays, a little harder. But it's the Duchess Olga Katerina in that You Can't Take It With You. Yeah. Or it's Beverly Carlton in The Man Who Came to Dinner. They've only got one scene. It's a short scene. It's not an entire act. It's a short scene. They come in. They make their presence known. It's a great character. It's a lot of fun, a lot of energy, or whatever the case may be, and then they're gone for the rest of the show. We want to reward those folks with something that says, you know what? In terms of that role, I can judge it differently if I put it in the cameo category, because level of difficulty for a cameo is different than level of difficulty for a featured or a lead role. So I get to base that based on how are cameos in Watch. All right. This was what we call the Judi Dench Award. We don't want Judi Dench winning the lead actress or the featured actress award for her queen role in Shakespeare in Love many years ago for her 10 minutes of screen time in a 2-hour movie. Okay. But we do want to reward young actors or new actors or even professional great actors who come to community theater and do a 10-minute role and sit backstage for 3 hours for the rest of waiting for the rest of the show to end, and so they can take their bow. Okay, we want to reward those folks for taking those smaller roles. All right, what about compilations of one-acts or other special circumstances? First of all, you will not see random compilations of one-acts in Watch. We don't judge those. If somebody wants to do them, that's fine. We just won't adjudicate them. You're not going to see an evening of one-acts by Eugene O'Neill. It has to be presented and licensed in that way regularly. So you may see The Actor's Nightmare, Sister Mary Ignatius Explains It All for You by Christopher Durang. That is always licensed as a single evening of theater as 2 one-acts together in a single night. You may see Plaza Suite or London Suite or California Suite, all the suites by Neil Simon. Those are all licensed plays, but yet they are, if you look at them, 3 one-acts as a single evening of theater. You will judge those. However, the real quandary is how to do leads. Don't feel bad if you go to see a show that is essentially one-acts and you have 0 leads. Every act, chances are they have a lead, but there's no leads across the entire production. Not your fault. We don't want a person who was a lead for one act going up and accepting the award over Hamlet, who would have came in second. The company chose to do that show. They've been to this training as well. They know there are no leads. However, if they want to have a lead in the show, and they're doing Plaza Suite, and they do it like the movie where Walter Matthau played all 3 characters in all 3 of the acts. And they take their playbill and they say, Fred, George, and Tom, played by Walter Matthau, all in one line. Guess what? It's a lead. Because he was a lead in each act, so he's a lead across the entire production, and they have it all in one line. However, they said Fred played by Walter Matthau, George played by Walter Matthau, Tom played by Walter Matthau. None of those characters are leads. They were a lead in only one act. of a full-length show. Okay? Don't feel bad. If they're not a lead, 2/3 to 3/4 of the entire production, it is not a lead. It may be an ensemble piece, or don't worry about it. Okay. Scoring technical elements and overall elements. Provide a score for every element, whether it's NA for not applicable or a score. It has to, every box should have a score in it. It's called, for instance, plays don't have a lot of music in them. However, if you see music played or anything singing on stage, music direction gets a score in any show you see. If you see a hoedown in the middle of a play, it's choreography. Todd could do it. It's a 5. All right, but you still score choreography because you saw a hoedown in the middle of it. All right. Many productions will not have stage combat or special effects listed, but if you saw a stage slap on stage, that's stage combat. Somebody had to learn how to do the right thing, to hit the person in the right place, to keep their hand loose, to make sure it didn't leave a mark. And that person had to understand how to take the slap and not let it hurt them, or they had to take they had to do the thud on their chest, or whatever the case may be, to make it sound right for the punch. Somebody had to teach them how to do it. And in some cases, it may have been a pratfall. And the actor may have said, hey, director, wouldn't it be funny if I fell here? And I could do it myself. I could do pratfalls. He may not have had to do any training for that. May not have actually been choreographed by anybody. But you saw somebody do a pratfall on stage. That's combat choreography. Okay? You should score it. Now, if they do one slap or one pratfall the entire show, anything higher than a 5, 5.5, and I'm going to come find you. But score it. Okay? You're rarely ever going to see special effects listed in the playbill. So it's up to you to kind of realize, wait, there's tons of multimedia. Oh, there it is. It's under multimedia. Oh, it's under videos. Oh, it's under water and rain. They've listed some other, flying of actors, and they've listed the company that they hired to do flying of Peter Pan. If you saw it and it's a special effect, make sure you score it. All right. Give it a score, even if it's not on the playbill. We don't want to deal with, not surprisingly, editing gets a lot better for every year that people are going to watch. Last test here. Who do you score for set design in this playbill? Same Henry V playbill. Not hard. Set design, David Scher, Eileen Molee, Mike Schlebeck, Jeff Boatwright. Now, good news for you guys, you don't have to type all those names. You can say David Scher et al. And we'll know to go find more names. Okay, so you don't need to type the entire thing in there. Same thing, who's this list for set construction? One guy, Master Carpenter. Right, maybe tech director, master carpenter. We're looking for that person who was in charge of designing that element, or running that element, or managing that element. So, Mike Schlebeck would be the guy, or a tech director, like I said. Set painting the same way, Kathy Reeder. But if they list a whole bunch of people like they did with set construction, you can list the first person, et al., and we'll know to go find them. Because Watch only buys 1 trophy per element. If they want more, the company has to buy them. We kind of go, you want to buy these 27 trophies? They go, oh, no. That kid only pounded 1 nail one night. We don't need to buy a trophy for that. All right. If you get a ballot that only is missing costumes, makeup, hair, you still give scores for everything you saw on stage. Costumes gets a score, makeup gets a score, hair gets a score. If you get a playbill with a blank page, go get a new playbill, because everything that you saw on stage should get a score. The only places we don't score is stage manager, producer. We wish we could. The problem is we can have a great production with a crappy stage manager and a crappy producer, and vice versa. You can have a horrible production with a great stage manager, great producer. All their work is done before the curtain goes up, and and there's just no way to score how much or how little work they were doing. So, all right, same scores, same problem. I wish they could find a way to do the slash highest level difficulty. There's just no way to do that. So make sure you're kind of taking level difficulty into every score you give. And the only thing that really changed on the scoring of technical elements is NI for not identifiable becomes NA for not applicable for that production. Again, technical elements, you score the exact same way based on the criteria we've talked about tonight, based on the watch experience you have across community theater. Score every element in the context of what is average to you. Maintain your 5 throughout the year. Don't be afraid to give 1s and 10s if you feel they deserve it. Again, if you didn't like it, get below 5. And if you're giving 10s, they better be great. And they better be hard to do. Every element should get a score or NA, and adjudicate each element separately in accordance with the criteria. Don't fall in the trap of scoring all elements high, the halo effect, or low based on the overall production of what you see. All right, the comment section. Several years ago, we were, companies really wanted some feedback from the judges. They just, they weren't seeing nominations, they weren't seeing awards. They needed something in terms of how can we get better. So we gave the comment section, and some judges wanted to give feedback. I said, I wish I could say more than just here's the number. So we put the box out there. It's completely optional. We ask you to just make it constructive. Okay, it's about 500 characters, maybe a little more than that on the new ballot. The results will not be provided to them until after the award ceremony. So if you tell them that that they should fix their playbill, they're not going to know about that until next year. So telling them, I just had that with one of the playoffs. I called them immediately and said, guys, here's the problem I had with your playbill. It didn't list hair design, it didn't list blood effects, it didn't list the prop. You need to make sure that the playbill for the rest of the run, because I was there opening weekend, gets an insert for the rest of the judges, so they score this, because they won't know that wig was a wig based on what I saw. All right. This is for good, positive or helpful remarks to let them know, if your director had focused on pacing more, this production would have been better. Or, your set should have been decomplicated to keep the pace of the show going because the set changes were long and noticeable and distracted from the play. Things like that. Help them understand. The sound design was good, but I was hearing this or that. I'm a sound designer, and you could probably, find something to do with, moving your speakers to different spots. That's very helpful. Okay? Be constructive. What is not constructive is your house manager is annoying. Because as soon as you start saying things like that, we think you're judging the wrong stuff. There are other programs that actually, judge front of house and the bathrooms and everything else. Like, that is not a watch element. Just because you didn't like the bathrooms doesn't mean it's a comment. And we are worried that what are you thinking about, and how are you judging our show if you didn't like the bathrooms? Okay, so. All right, yeah. The same stuff I already kind of talked about. Again, comments about the facility suggest you're judging the wrong thing. Please make your constructive comments about the production and how they could improve future productions, not just the one you saw. Most common mistakes in balloting, please make sure you type your email address correctly. It's hard to get a confirmation back to you if you screw that up. Enter your company correctly, especially which company you saw versus which company you represent. So hard to get your rep and if you're being an alternate for a show, make sure you provide the company you alternated for, not the company you normally represent. Okay, if you're having to do kind of a extra alternate job. And again, the biggest one is list the cast in the same order as the playbill, not the bios. All right, I'm challenging all of our judges every year to be a tough judge. We actually had, when Watch started, we used to do 5 judges for every company. We decided that the scoring was just too out of whack. We said, you know what, every company, let's get down to 4 judges, send them to a few more shows, but have tougher, harder core and better judges. And so we asked all of our companies to throw out their easiest judge and keep their best 4. Because we want people who know what they're looking for. We want people who are experienced in theater. We have seen ballots come in where every score on it's a 10. And yet there's no show like that. None. The 3 bullets at the bottom tend to resonate the most with new judges. If you're giving a 7 or higher, you're saying, I think this is nomination worthy. 7 or higher, and for the most part, the scoring tends to bear that out. In order to get a nomination in Watch, across all the companies we have and all the shows we have, you need to average across 8 judges a 7 or better. Okay? If you're giving 8 or 9 to a thing, you're saying, I believe it's award-worthy. And if you're giving a 10, you couldn't imagine that difficult a thing being done any better at any level of theater. 10s are rare, save them. They are very special. It would be a Travis shamockery if this did not win the award. It would be a travesty and a sham and a mockery. All right, be a tough judge. You're getting a free ticket to do a job, not just to enjoy the play. We hope you enjoy the play also, but step back occasionally and realize what was missing, what was there, what was extra work, what was hard about that show. Give lots and lots of 5s. 5 is not a bad score. People think they're hurting a show by giving it an average score. Average means it was decent. It just wasn't that hard to do. It wasn't that, it didn't affect me positively or negatively. In order to move up a 5, somebody's got to actually say, you know what, this was better than average at community theater. The makeup I saw makeup on stage, and it wasn't just Clown White and Mikado. It was lines, and yeah, I could tell they painted lines on people's face, but that's harder to do than, makeup by the cast, which means the guys weren't wearing any, and the girls were only wearing what they normally wear outside. Okay? 7 and up means it was special, and it was hard to do. So high that that good was now 6. Oh, or level of difficulty was so high that you have to adjust your average. If you're seeing Hamlet, that's just hard to take on. You got to adjust your average up just for doing Hamlet. Okay? 7s are special, 7s and above. Several years ago, we did some. We added this into training. We haven't changed it much since because it has been improving, but we've left it in because it's important. We have some averages, not really stats. We had 1,096 ballots come in 2009 from 187 judges, primary and alternate. In 2009, we had 5 judges, 2 primaries and 3 alternates, which was down from 10 a couple years before, which was great. We were in half, but these 5 judges gave an average score of 7 or higher to every element of every show they saw. Half of everything they saw was nomination worthy or better. Before that, in 2007, we had 2 people who actually averaged above 8 for everything they saw. Everything they saw, half of everything they saw was award worthy. Okay. Before we started emphasizing level of difficulty, 22% of all of our judges averaged above 7. 29 of our judges, 22% of them averaged above 7, with 4 of them averaging above 8. The 5 judges in 2009 we're talking about averaged nearly 1.33 points higher than the other judges scoring the exact same shows they did. One judge was almost 2 points higher. Their average high score on every ballot was a 9.2, which means in every show that they saw, something was great. And as you go see more and more watch shows, you'll understand how bad their judging was. Okay? Only 5 ballots out of the 25 those judges submitted had anything below a 5. History proves that as the matrix pools these people together, that's when we get the oopses and the uh-ohs at nominations and awards. Where everybody kind of goes, what is wrong with Watch that this got a nomination or an award? Because the good news is with the matrix, if we have one of those judges go see a show, their scores get tossed. Because we toss the high and low. If 2 judges go see that show together who are both easy judges, one judge gets tossed, the other scores get through, and that's the difference that bumped them into nominations. Okay. We also had 9 judges during that same year that gave scores an average score below 5. The difference is I know every one of those 9 judges personally. They're what we call award winners in Watch. I think every one of those judges' names has one or at least one, if not more, awards in Watch. Those 9 judges know what they're talking about. And the difference between them and the guys who give the easy scores, they will score higher when they think somebody deserves it. Whereas the easy judges never score anything low. Nothing's average. Now, we're talking to the hard judges as well and saying, please, you know what you're looking at. Please, fix your 5. Your 5 is clearly on Kennedy Center or you're basing it on something else. Please fix it because we want your scores to weigh more. You know what you're looking at. We want you to start at 6 if you're a harsh judge. We understand that. And they're trying. I'm one of them. Okay? I was on that list. But at the same time, when something deserves it, I am willing to give 8s, 9s, 10s if something is really great and hard to do. Whereas the easy judges are the ones that really cause problems for Watch when they give nominations and awards to elements that really don't deserve it. We kind of talked about this already. If your rep tells you you're harsh, consider adjusting your 5 the next year. Maybe you should start at 6 if you think, because again, we want our best and strongest judges for their scores to weigh as much, if not more, in the system. And we want your higher scores to get in there. Please remember, 5's a good score. It's fine. It just means it didn't stick out. If you really believe that everything you're seeing is a 7, talk to your rep about becoming a press agent, because we want you to be, submitting great things as reviews online and Yelp or whatever the case may be. That's a much better job than being a judge. If everything you see is a 7, please take a step aside from being a judge. New judges and new groups are always the wild cards in the system, so we're looking forward to seeing your scores at the end of next year. Last 3 slides, I promise. I've exaggerated several things tonight during the presentation just to kind of make you stop and think as you're balloting. Oh wait, Todd said, don't judge set construction and set design together. Don't give it the same score. How hard were each of them to do? How much did I see actually designed on stage, and how hard was it to build? And those should not be the same score. Okay? Consider level of difficulty. How hard was it to do? Did they do the exact same set design as the last time you saw the show? Or was it a brand new set design with an incredibly different concept that, really blew your mind because you never thought of doing that show that way? And did it work? Did it work for the entire piece? How hard was it compared to what is average in watch? And then, how good or bad was it? Do's and don'ts. Do make reservations early, please. Don't risk a sold-out performances, especially if whatever show has kids in it, or musicals. Do stay true to your 5 throughout the season. Don't change it once you realize how things are playing out. Stay true to your 5 until next December, and then you can change it the following year. Submit ballots promptly. Do it as quick as you can, preferably the night you see it, or the next day, to make sure you've considered all the elements you really saw. Keep copies of your ballots in case something happens to our tabulation system. Give 1s and 10s if deserved, or at least get below 5 for stuff that didn't deserve higher scores. Mark all elements, even if not identifiable or not applicable, and use the playbill to help determine balloting performances. Make sure you listen to the same order. Score all technical elements you see, regardless of the playbill or not, and do arrange for alternate judges early with your representative if needed. And finally, do keep the adjudication coordinator and your company rep informed of your status of fulfilling commitment. All right, don'ts. Please don't get frustrated with box office personnel. It happens. Again, you get there late and you're mad and your reservation's not there. Nobody meant to do it. I promise. Nobody meant to miss your phone call that you possibly, even knew was coming in late or whatever the case may be. It's just one of those things that happens at community theater level. If you can't come another night or they can't squeeze you in, thank them for their service, call your rep immediately, and let them know they got to send an alternate your place. If it's closing night, do what you can to either, see if you can work your way in nicely, or contact Lita immediately and say, Lita, is there an alternate who's seen this show who can ballot it for me because I missed it. Don't be late. Don't leave early. You're going to want to. You are. You're going to walk into a show, you're going to know 10 minutes in that you're in one of those 15 that are at the bottom. Okay, one of those shows we talked about. You're not going to be wrong. It's going to be a miserable night. And if you leave early, they're going to know, and your miserable night will now be somebody else's miserable night, because as soon as you left, they called Lita and told Lita, you left early, there's no way you can judge this show fairly, and somebody else has to go and watch that show. Please don't do that to that person. They also will tell you that